So I'm making some dyed papers, which I like to go through about every like month or so and make a fresh batch. I like to use them for, backgrounds and collages and covers, even like whatever I want. Like you've probably seen some journals that I've made where I use my dyed paper. So like this here is just a piece of dyed ledger paper. I have this little journal here, which is full of different dyed, like, lined paper and, you know, just other random papers, like book pages, plain white computer paper, construction paper. Sometimes I'll take my old, old, like, paperwork from work and stuff like that. I try to recycle as much stuff as I can, and I will show you how I do that. So I really like to use book pages. I think it adds a lot to it. I think it looks really cool when it's done, whenever you have like the words and the splattered paints over top of it. But we're going to do a whole bunch of different pages here. I always like to just kind of layer them up, so that way while I'm dyeing the one on top or spraying the one on top, it also, collects on all the pages underneath. So that's a really good system to getting done a lot faster, because you're spraying a bunch of different stuff at once, and especially if you like that messy look and you're not going for like specific color scheme and you just want to get colors all over the place like I do, this is how I do it. So I have this piece of Tupperware here full of different things, different like dilution sprays, homemade paint sprays with which is just acrylic paint and water mixed together. Sometimes I will even take different dilution sprays and mix them together into a separate bottle. I have my water bottle here. I have different tie-dye colors. Believe it or not, this actually works really well. And these are one of the things that I most prefer to use. So who said tie-dye just has to be for fabric? It actually works really awesome on paper. So it's easier, in my opinion, if you start by spraying it down with a little bit of water and then go in afterwards with your color. The reason for that is because that first layer of water is going to help your paper absorb your colors a whole lot easier. Instead of just like sitting on the top and puddling, it's going to do a little bit more of like, absorbing. Like you're still going to have some splotches like that sitting at the very top, which you can either wait for them to dry. You can set another page on top of it, getting two birds with one stone, getting all the excess off of the bottom page, as well as getting some of that wet paint that you don't want and getting it on the next page above. So as I do this, I'm kind of just pretty much like stacking pages on top of pages, unless I don't want a certain color on certain pages, but I don't really care. I like to have like a little bit of all the colors on all the pages. I like that like messy look. So I'm just kind of randomly splattering and throwing them on there. I really like to use book pages, like I said, and I just so happen to have a lot of extra of those. So I'll use some of those too. Being kind of random. You want to be careful when you do this. You don't want to make a mess all over your house. It's good to do this on top of either a large piece of plastic. You could use a garbage bag, or you could use, if you have like a painting tarp, that would be a great idea to put that down underneath. You could use large pieces of construction paper. I like to do that. I would recommend not doing this in your bedroom. I wouldn't recommend sitting on your carpet and doing this, because there's a very good chance that you will make a mess and you will stain your carpet. You might think that you won't, but it happens. And it's totally understandable because it's messy. So just do this in a careful place. Please do not get in trouble with your mother at home by making a massive mess and staining your carpet or staining your bed. Okay. And if you're an adult, then, you don't want to have to deal with that. You don't want to have to clean that up. So just be careful. I'm going to go kind of random here. I'm going to maybe throw in some orange. I noticed that if you try to like, I don't know, try to like soak them up or absorb them or smudge them while they're still super wet like that, you're going to get more of like colors running together, as opposed to if you just let them dry, if that makes any sense. I like to pick some up. I like to let the paint run down so you get that cool like drippy effect, and it gets darker, you know, towards the bottom of the paper. You don't have to do that. You can do a lot of different things to dry them. So if you are impatient and you want them to dry immediately, you can use a hair dryer. You just set them down, like if you have a big piece of like cardboard or like a big lid to a box, like this, for example. Like, let's just say like you have like this kind of lid. You could put all your papers down, take your blow dryer and blow dry them. This is my drying method that I use because, well, I like how the blow dryer works with the papers. It does a really good job because as you're blow drying it flat on your surface, your paper is going to dry flat, as opposed to another method that you could do, which is using your oven. Believe it or not, you can actually put these dyed papers inside of the oven at a reasonably low temperature, and it will dry them. However, it is going to crinkle the crap out of them. So I like to let them air dry. That's just me. That's just my preference. So what I do is I will lay them down on top of all these other papers, let them dry just a little bit, enough to where they're not like soaking wet. And then I carefully take them and then I roll them up like this. And this is how I let them dry. Whoops. I made one come undone, like almost like little wet scrolls. And then I'll let them sit there overnight, or honestly, it doesn't even take that long. I'll give it like an hour, and they're usually pretty dry unless you soak them real well. But this is how I do it, because I don't care if the colors seep down onto the other colors. If I have like a lighter one, like these pink ones, that I don't really want to pick up any of that excess ink from the other darker ones, I'll like kind of set these off to the side. But usually I don't care. I kind of like when the colors blend a little bit. I also like to wait for a page to dry and then come back to it, because whenever you do that, you're going to get cool effects like that. See how it's going to look more layered, as opposed to, like, let's say if you would have sprayed all these colors on right, like all at the same time, you're going to get mud. And they're all going to kind of blend together a little bit more than you want them to. Unless you don't mind that, then that's totally fine. But if you don't want mud, it's really good to do this in layers. Spray down a couple of colors that are, you know, colors that are good with each other. Like, let's say like red and orange, or blue and green, or pink and purple. And then whenever you let those dry a little bit, then you can come back and add other colors to it. Colors that if you would have added originally, it would have made like a dark brown color. That's what mud is. And I usually don't care too much about making mud. But if you don't want mud, that's a really helpful tip. Like I said, going back to the whole oven thing, I just want to touch on that again. So you can absolutely dry your painted papers in the oven. However, be very careful. You want to make sure that you don't leave the room. You don't accidentally put them in there and forget about them. Leave your house, leave the room, go off and do whatever else. Stay in the kitchen. For God's sake, stay in the kitchen while you're doing it so that you can keep an eye on them. They are going to dry ridiculously fast. Whenever I do it, I think I put my oven at 250 degrees. And I take a baking sheet, add a piece of tin foil down on top of it, and then I haven't done this method in a while because I usually just let them air dry, like I said. But if I remember correctly, it didn't take very long at all for them to dry. Like, I feel like I was putting down like 2 or 3 pages down at once, and it probably took them a couple of minutes, and they were dry, immediately dry. The longer you leave them in the oven, the more they're going to start to crinkle up and turn into like that. So that's why I don't really like doing it that way, because I don't like the, you know, the effect that it gives. So to put it into perspective, I think these are old ones that I did prior, and see how they're still pretty flat. They're not crinkly and messy. You really can't tell much of a difference, like in texture. You know what I mean? They're still pretty flat, which I really like. As opposed to if you were to put them in the oven, this is what's going to happen. I feel like you're not going to be able to see it as well on here. You can really feel it. I promise. You can really feel a difference in the texture. It feels dry. It feels brittle. It feels crinkly. It feels, you know what I mean? And if you don't want that, just don't do the oven method. Like, here's another one that I did in the oven. And if I remember correctly, like, I don't think that it even took like 3 or 4 minutes. I feel like I put them in sheet at a time, after sheet after sheet, and it was like 2 minutes each. But I don't know, I just didn't like the way it made them feel, so I usually prefer either the blow dryer or my rolling method. Do whatever works for you, whatever makes you happy. I think air drying just works better for me. I don't know why I keep going to this green color. I have so many other colors, but I like that. I like that one, and my blue are in spray bottles. They're little like dilution sprays. This is like a homemade dilution spray, this purple one. But I like that blue one, and I like this green one a lot. I like my tie-dyes quite a bit. I like the colors, but they're still in squirter bottles. I haven't gotten to get them in spray bottles yet, so I feel like I find myself just using the blue and the green like more than anything, just because it's easier to deal with. You can just spray them out right away. However, I will say that it is easy to make the sprays. I've just been lazy. See, I bought online these little spray bottles, which you can also go to like any dollar store or like Walmart or Giant Eagle or probably any craft store, and you could probably buy these for pretty cheap. I got these online. I think it was like a 3-pack for $1. And I used those. I filled those right away with like a pinkish red. Where did I just set them? A greenish blue, which is almost gone. And like I said, I like to use my water in this one to help blend and help get the papers wet before I start spraying them. You can go to the store and buy these bottles. However, you don't have to. If you have an old, let's say, an old body spray that you are done with, it is finished, instead of throwing away the bottle, keep it. Wash it out really well. If you want to take off the label on the outside, you can peel that off. Make sure you just wash it real good, and then you can use that. You can mix like acrylic paints and water and make your own sprays. If you have a bunch of dilution sprays already, you can mix those up to create your new colors. You can take, like I said, tie-dye. If you have a bunch of like old tie-dye kits or like tie-dye, you know, bottles that you don't think you're ever going to use again. Like, I used to tie-dye all the time. I used to love tie-dye. I still do. I love me some tie-dye. But I know that I'm not going to be tie-dyeing clothes here anytime soon. So I might as well get use out of them. What's in here? I'm guessing, I think, see, this is an old like body spray I had. I think I just filled, that's just water. Oh wait, or that might have been bleach. For some reason I feel like there might be bleach in there. Oh boy. And I'm just kind of randomly spraying, and I'm just going to keep doing this, and keep doing this, and keep flipping them, and letting them run, and piling them on, and mixing, and I'm going to do some more, and then I'll be back and show you what I did. Okay, I think I am done for the night. I've been doing this for a few hours, and this is what I came out with. I think I'm just going to let them dry overnight and maybe come back to them. I have some large ones. I have some small ones. So far, this one's really catching my eye. I'm kind of stoked about this one. I like the ones that are like green, yellow, and red. So I like rustic colors. So I like those. There's a lot of green and a lot of blue. I'm noticing like a lot of green. I feel like these are going to come out pretty cool. I also have this little, I guess this will be like a little journal. I don't know. There's like 4 pieces of paper folded together. And what I did was like I opened it up and squirted a little bit of ink inside and then closed it. And then opened it up and squirted a little bit and then closed it and just kind of kept doing that. So we'll see how that comes out. I'll wait for that to dry and then maybe staple it, you know. Maybe, look at my fingers. Maybe staple it, maybe turn it into a little journal, or worst comes to worst, it'll just be backgrounds. I don't know. So I'm just going to let that sit there. I'm going to let all of this dry overnight, and I'm excited to see how it looks tomorrow, and I can't wait to use them. So now I'll be a little bit stocked up for a while. Like I said, I do this every like month or so. I'll go through and make a new big batch because I use these a lot, because I just love this look. Alright guys, thank you for watching. I know this was a short video. Bye guys.